All right. Well, I'm watching a video the other day, and it's Hillary Clinton. She's in a sit-down Q&A with a liberal reporter who's asking her to go back and reflect, from 6 months ago, of course, about the campaign and why it is that she lost. Now, right after the election, back in November, I did a video where I explained to Hillary clearly why she lost. Apparently, Hillary did not see my video. So, I'm going to do this one more time. And I urge you, any of you who are Hillary Clinton cultists, or anyone who follows Hillary on social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, I highly urge you to get this video to Hillary so that she will finally understand why she lost the election. So I'm going to lay it out for you right now, Hillary. Are you paying attention? Watch very, very carefully so you'll never have to go out and embarrass yourself again. First of all, in that particular interview, Hillary, you told the pin-headed liberal reporter that you lost because of James Comey and Russia. Well, Hillary, it wasn't James Comey and Russia who set up an unencrypted, illegal private server in your home with thousands of archived classified emails, including 22 emails that were SAP, programs so secret our government doesn't even admit they exist. That wasn't Russia, and it wasn't Comey who set up that private server, Hillary. It was you. It wasn't James Comey and the Russians who accepted millions and millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia, one of the most oppressive regimes on the planet, with a horrible human rights and women's rights record. Why do you think 53% of women did not vote for you? And it wasn't James Comey, and it wasn't the Russians that made the decision to take all that dirty Saudi money. No, Hillary, that was you. It wasn't James Comey, and it wasn't the Russians who decided to collect more than $1 million in speeches from Wall Street and then refused to release the transcripts because you were embarrassed about what they might reveal. No, that wasn't James Comey, wasn't the Russians, Hillary, it was you. It wasn't James Comey and it wasn't the Russians who cheated Bernie Sanders and his supporters out of the nomination. No, Hillary, wasn't Russia, wasn't Comey, it was you. $1.2 billion? Are you kidding me? Let's see, it wasn't Russia, it wasn't Comey who locked out the Bernie Sanders supporters at the convention and replaced them with people that you got off of Craigslist by paying them $75 a day to sit there and hold signs, while the progressive wing of the party, Bernie Sanders supporters, rioted in the streets all around the DNC convention area. No, Hillary, that was not the Russians. It was not James Comey. Hillary, that was you. $1.2 billion. It wasn't James Comey and it wasn't the Russians that called half the country deplorables. Homophones, psychophobes, thisophobe, thatophobe. No, Hillary, that was you. Let's see, what else? Yes, it wasn't James Comey, it wasn't the Russians who couldn't generate the energy to even go out and give more than 3 speeches a week. No, 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 Hillary, that wasn't Comey, wasn't Russia, that was you. It wasn't James Comey and it wasn't the Russians who passed out at the 9/11 ceremony and had to be thrown into the Scooby van like a bag of potatoes and then brought back to life by Dr. Frankenstein and his EpiPen. No, that wasn't the Russians. It wasn't James Comey. It was you, Hillary. $1.2 billion. It wasn't James Comey. It wasn't the Russians who didn't hold a press conference for 288 days while you were on the campaign trail. Nope, wasn't the Russians or Comey. Hillary, that was you. Let's see. Oh, it wasn't James Comey, certainly wasn't the Russians that couldn't go out and even give a 15-minute speech without coughing and hacking and gagging up green shit into a glass of water, nearly passing out on stage, wigging out. No, that wasn't Comey, that wasn't the Russians. Hillary, that was you. 1.2 billion. It wasn't James Comey, it wasn't the Russians who signed up for TTP and TTIP and called them the greatest trade deals the world has ever seen. After you supported NAFTA and GATT when your husband was president, everyone knows that you're a globalist free trader, and then you tried to go and change your position. No one believed you, Hillary. It wasn't Russia, it wasn't Comey that signed on to TTP. something you know is horribly unpopular. Bernie Sanders whipped your ass on it all over the Rust Belt, and Trump was doing exactly the same. They didn't make that decision, Hillary. It was you. Let's see, what else did you do? Oh, yes. In addition to that, Hillary, it wasn't James Comey. It wasn't the Russians who went into Pennsylvania and Kentucky and Ohio and Virginia and to the Rust Belt and told all those coal miners that you were going to put them out of work. No, that wasn't Comey and the Russians, Hillary. That was you. $1.2 freaking billion. It also wasn't James Comey, it wasn't Russia who decided to make your number one right-hand woman, the carpet-munching Huma Abedin, to be your top person to assist you in your campaign. No. Wasn't Russia, wasn't Comey, and it certainly wasn't Russia and Comey that encouraged her perverted husband to send dick pics all over the country, including to underage girls. That wasn't Russia, wasn't Comey. No, Hillary. It was you. And I'm sure there's some Hillary emails involved in some of those, on some of those servers that, or on some of those devices that good old Wiener used. So we're still investigating that, Hillary, but I'm sure more will come out in time. Let's see. Oh, yes. It wasn't James Comey, it wasn't the Russians who put together the worst campaign team in the history of American politics. The group of rectal rim shots that you organized together to run your campaign were complete misfits. And we know from the Neera-Tanden emails that we read from the WikiLeaks that between you and Podesta, you didn't even like Hillary. You thought she was a disaster. You knew her lies weren't selling. And Hillary, these are the people who you hired to run your campaign. And by the way, Hillary, you should never choose a guy to run your campaign whose last name rhymes with puke. You kook. $1.2 billion. You gotta be kidding me. Let's see. Oh, yes. It wasn't the Russians and it wasn't James Comey who decided to diss the progressives by not only just booting them out of the convention, not only by cheating them, by coordinating with the DNC and the media, but no, you took it one step farther. You decided to go ahead and cater to Republicans and neocons when you realized that all those progressives weren't going to vote for you. So you didn't even throw the Bernie Sanders supporters and progressives a bone to try to bring them back to you. No. You went out and tried to find support amongst neocons. That was a brilliant strategy, Hillary. And it wasn't made by Comey. It wasn't made by the Russians. It was made by you. Let's see. It wasn't. Oh yes, this is a real winner. It wasn't Comey. It wasn't the Russians who decided to invade Libya, and then arrange for the brutal murder of Muammar Gaddafi. And of course, no one will ever forget that classic interview where we came, we saw, he died. Yeah, that went over real well, Hillary. I don't know if you noticed it, Hillary, if you've checked on what's going on in Libya right now, but they have now reinstituted slavery. Literally, slavery. You might want to visit Libya. Oh, but don't worry if you don't know anything about it, Hillary, because I'm preparing a video on that right now. So, what could we have expected, Hillary, had you been president? Well, we could have expected to see you traveling around the country in your Scooby van with Dr. Frankenstein and Nurse Feelgood giving you injections and loading you up on enough chemicals and drugs and pharmaceuticals just to keep you at room temperature. I'm sure that would have been fantastic. And we could have also seen you there at the UN, speaking to all those dignitaries, spitting green shit, coughing and hacking your way through the speeches. I'm sure that that would have looked real presidential on the international stage. Let's see. Oh yes, here's another thing that I'm sure a lot of people got really, really tired of seeing. Hillary, as a rich woman, we all would have thought that you would at least would have had enough money and enough class to hire somebody to help you with your selection of clothing. Trotting yourself out there in your poop-stained pantsuits in the spirit of Chairman Mao certainly did not help you with the folks. You know what I mean, Hillary? $1.2 billion. Oh, it gets even better. And then, after all you did to the Bernie Sanders supporters, after cheating them out of the election, after kicking them out of the convention, then you turn around and nominate Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine! A champion of TTP, of TTIP, of every globalist trade deal you can find, a total corporate Democrat insider, someone who the progressives would have hated, someone who they never would have came and supported, and a man who literally, as we all remember from the video, you booked him to speak down in Florida at a big amphitheater, probably would have held 10,000 people, and there's old Tim Kaine. There's about 15 or 20 people walking around licking on ice cream and looking at him up on the stage as he's speaking, and they're probably thinking to themselves, who's this guy? Who's he talking to? There's nobody actually listening to them. Literally 24 people there in a place that would have held 10,000 people. Hillary, that was an extreme waste of money, but of course you had $1.2 billion. Now, had I been your campaign chairman and you would have said, gee, where should we put Tim to campaign? I would have suggested that you put him in a freaking phone booth. And you would have had plenty of room for Tim Kaine in a phone booth and everyone who came to hear him speak. And probably still had room left over for a popcorn vendor. And then in the last days of the campaign, there is Donald Trump out there flying around doing 3 to 4 speeches a day, hitting you as hard as he could in the Rust Belt in the very states where Bernie kicked the crap out of you. And where are you? You're in Arizona 2 times in the last 5 days. And you decided not to go to Wisconsin. Instead, you sent Chelsea. Well, I hate to tell you this, Hillary, but Chelsea is no Ivanka. Fact is, the girl has got a head on her like a house cat. Whew. I gotta tell you, Hillary, I certainly hope you learned something from this video. For all the things that you say about why you lost the election, blame it on Russia, blame it on whoever, James Comey, the fact of the matter is, Hillary, the person who's most responsible and totally liable, totally responsible for why you lost the election is you. And so let's take one little last bit of information here, Hillary. Let's take a trip back down memory lane, shall we? It was 1992. Your husband, Slick Willie, is elected president. The very first thing he did was put you in charge of a secret healthcare commission so that we could all have Hillary care. Of course, this pissed off so many Americans that what happened is that in the midterm elections in '94, your husband's party lost control of both houses of Congress for the first time in over 40 years. A clear repudiation of you and your secret healthcare commission and Hillary care. So, your husband turned to a Republican advisor, Dick Morris. And Dick came in, did some research, and then he came to your husband and said, gosh, Bill, I found out your problem. It's your wife. Everybody hates her. You got to put her in the closet. And so your husband, being the halfway smart guy that he is, decided to put you in the closet. And we didn't hear a peep out of you for another 6 years. And that's how people like it, Hillary. They want you in the closet. They don't want to hear a peep out of you, not for 6 years, 60 years, 600 years, 600,000 years, or 6 million years. No one likes you. No one wants to hear from you, with the exception of maybe a couple of hours over a couple glasses of wine with Webster Hubbell. I'm sure you know where I'm coming from there. So, the bottom line is, Hillary, it was not the Russians. It was not James Comey, nor anyone else that cost you the election. It was you.